Ah yes, Final Fantasy II, or technically 4. This game has been a personal vendetta of mine since early in high school over 15 years ago. During my first playthrough I got essentially stuck on the moon, underleveled, under-equipped, and I had to call it quits. Well, not this time. I just recently played through and conquered this absolute classic of an RPG. And without further introduction, developed and published by Squaresoft and released on July 19, 1991, Final Fantasy II on the SNES was the first foray into the brave new world of 16-bit for the franchise. The game primarily takes place on the planet Earth, and you are in control of a knight named Cecil, who is the captain of the Red Wings, who are the air fleet of Baron. You're on a mission to capture a powerful crystal from a rival kingdom. Of course, Cecil starts questioning things a bit and finds himself in a rather precarious scenario. He is then sent on an essential unknown mission to prove his loyalty, where all things go haywire. There are many twists and turns with the plot, so I'd rather not divulge too much information, as letting it unfold during a playthrough is much preferred in my opinion. The plot is extremely character driven and continues to grow throughout your playthrough, so you get the gist of it, at least for the start of the game. Final Fantasy II is still pretty standard when it comes to Final Fantasy as well as other Japanese RPGs. There's overworlds, dungeons, caves, towns, etc. The latter of which is where you're able to interact with NPCs, purchase items, weapons, access inns, and so forth, whereas the former you are traversing unknown areas, finding new discoveries, fighting randomly encountered enemies, bosses, and the like. Eventually, as you continue on your playthrough, you'll find various means of transportation to help aid you along in traveling faster and further on the overworld, such as airships, hovercrafts, and even chocobos. Some major improvements for Final Fantasy II were that you are now able to house up to 5 members of your battling party as opposed to 4. You are able to choose which warriors fight in the front lines, think brutes, higher defense, and which will fight in the back lines, typically mages. And all in all, battling is pretty standard. You have the option to attack, parry, switch the order of the gang, use a special attack or ability that's unique to the character, use magic if applicable, or an item. However, something that's new to the game is the active time battle system. It revolves around the player putting in the orders for the party in real time during battles. Characters are faster than others, and that allows them to do as they need to sooner. That also means if you fart around too much, you'll be punished. It's pretty sweet. Final Fantasy II employs a lot of use out of the Mode 7 technology, most notably when utilizing aircrafts, traversing dungeons, and using various magic spells and summons. Overall, the game is very pleasing to the eye, especially given its age. Obviously, it's not nearly as beautiful as Final Fantasy 3/6, but this game came out in 1991, so I'll give it some slack. Musically, as you would expect, Final Fantasy II is a banger. There are some truly memorable tracks in this game, some of which I'm playing in the background of this review. But you know that you're in for a good time right from the title screen when the 16-bit revamped classic Final Fantasy music kicks in and the goosebumps start growing. There's a great mix of sad, happy, erratic, up-tempo, and all emotions that encompass human life. The soundtrack adds so much to the enjoyment of this game, it's quite unreal. My personal favorite track is the Lunarians. It's so ominous and beautiful at the same time. Final Fantasy II is not overly difficult, but it is challenging. If you fight your random encounters and do a little bit of exploration, you should be fine, equipped and leveled up accordingly. The difficulty often lies in strategy and learning. For example, a boss could be weak to a certain type of magic, but strong against another type, so strong that it will heal the enemy. Using your brain and having quick and accurate fingers on the battle menus is key to being successful. So, should you play Final Fantasy II? Hell yes! This game has been re-released so many times it's hard to keep track. There's versions on the Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, PSP, iOS, and the list is even longer than that. That goes to show you right there that this game was good enough to be ported out to so many future generations and platforms. Enthralling story, amazing soundtrack, clever and decent difficulty, and that classic JRPG flair that we all know and love. I give Final Fantasy II an 8.5 out of 10. This is truly one of the best RPGs of all time, and a real pioneer for the Super Nintendo so early in its lifespan. Try it out if you haven't already, and thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.